Hi, my name is Jose Aguilar.
And my name is Robin Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Bruce Malenfant, for letting us interview you today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm from central Massachusetts, a mill town called Fitchburg. That's where I was born. I lived there till I was 15, and then we moved to Cape Cod as a family.
What brought you to specifically Nantucket?
What really brought me to live on Nantucket is my wife, or my fiance at the time. She just finished law school, and she sent out resumes, and one of her resumes she sent to Nantucket, and we had been here a couple of times, so we always liked it. And we were not looking forward to living in a city like Boston. She had plenty of job opportunities there, and ended up choosing a job on Nantucket. And so my wife chose Nantucket. It was a good decision. She always makes good decisions about stuff like that. So she knows more than I do.
Do you have kids?
Yes, we have two girls. Elizabeth is 29 years old. She's lives in Portland, Oregon. Currently, she works for an advertising agency, and I think she has a fun job. She works on ads for Nike and Old Spice, and she has a good job. And Madeline had just finished her graduate program at the London College of Fashion, and she studied costume design, and so she's about to embark on her career in New York City.
Do you think it's easier to raise kids now?
No. I just think it gets increasingly more complicated.
Why do you think that?
Well, there's just so many outside influences now. When I was a kid, my parents basically said, get out of the house and don't come back till dinner. But, I don't want to see it. And you can't do that today. There's just too much going on. The life's a little more sophisticated, I think, and it's just, it's just difficult.
What do you think was the hardest job of being a parent?
It's a difficult job because it's demanding. You never know what the challenges are going to be. The routine stuff is easy. Going to work is easy. It's when you get home and you have to kind of get all that work done and get kids prepared and make sure they're on the right path, and you do your best. And everyone's different. Every child is different, and parents are generally not well equipped to handle all the challenges. So I just think keeping them going in the right direction, I guess, is probably the biggest challenge.
Do you think it's a disadvantage or an advantage to raise your kids on this island?
I think it could be simpler here because there are less options. There are fewer options. But then again, that also causes issues because they know what's going on in the rest of the world. So my children, I think, wanted to leave the island. They decided before high school that they wanted to go somewhere else to school. So that kind of made it easy for us because they wanted to go away. I think they got the best of both worlds.
Do you have any marriage advice?
No.
No?
No marriage advice. No, I would never give anyone advice about raising children either. It's such a personal thing, and kids are so different, and no, it's just a big trap. Thank you very much. Good question, though.
You said, how many years did you work at the steamship?
41 years.
And can you tell us about the experience of working there before you became a captain?
Well, I started there sort of on a whim. I didn't take it seriously. I didn't think I'd work there very long. I started on the vineyard run working. I worked in the beginning on these old boats, the Islander and the Noshan, which is a steamboat. And my first jobs were basically the entry-level jobs. They're cleaning, carrying luggage, taking care of the passengers. And it was a fun sort of winter-summer job one season, and I never thought in a million years that I would ever work at the Steamship Authority for very long. In fact, my father worked as a welder there. And I remember one time he said to me, "Hey, I know if you want a job on the boats, I probably can get you in down there." And I'm like, "Boats? Who wants to work on boats?" 41 years later, boom. So, but the job evolved over time. What I did is you have to accrue time to move up at the Steamship Authority and move up anywhere to get the licenses necessary from the entry level to captain. And so that took 6 years of sea time. So it takes a lot of time, but I was a studious type on the boat. So I would always be ready to move up. Like if I needed 365 days and then I could take sit down for a test, I was ready to go at 365. I didn't wait. So I decided at some point that I was going to be there for a while. And so, I mean, I had a full career there. I did many jobs on the boats, and that's kind of it's a great way to gain experience. So that by the time you reach captain, you kind of know everything about everyone's job. So it's helpful. It gives you some insight into how to deal with people and whatnot. So,
Do you know what qualities makes a good captain?
Well, I think so. I think by the time you reach the level of captain, you need to be comfortable in your position. You need to be able to make good decisions, and you have to keep the safety of the passengers always as a priority. I think you have to be consistent, because that's the job. It can be mundane for months. We do the same thing over and over again, but being consistent and being able to deal with people and manage your crews and be respectful of them, and I think that's the way you succeed.
Have you ever participated in a big emergency as captain?
I've had truck fires on the boat which are really, really dangerous and nervous-making, because you have all these cars and trucks filled with gasoline, and you don't, luckily we were able to put out the fire in the truck. And there's been a few engine room fires that I've been on the boat when that has occurred. I had a couple of scary rides on the fast ferry, where we lost equipment, and it made us vulnerable in rough seas, and it was a challenge to get the boat back to safety. And so over the years, I mean, I don't think there are a lot of jobs where you could risk your life, but on the boats, every once in a while you get a trip where you go, "Oh my God, this could end badly," and so that's happened a few times with me.
When the harbor freezes, or what was how do you get out, or the worst experience you've had there?
Well, I mean, I never thought of them as horrible experiences, because it's incredibly beautiful. I always felt like I'm stuck in the ice. I've had trips across from Hyannis to Nantucket where you didn't see the water. It was ice the whole way, and no water at all. And it was just a crazy, incredibly beautiful experience. A couple of the trips I was on, I'd say were 10 to 12 hours long. I had a couple of really long ones. And I've had a number of them where we had an icebreaker, a Coast Guard icebreaker in front of us, for several hours, just to getting around Brant Point is the really difficult thing, because the ice builds up and there's a lot of current there. And I remember several trips being opposite Brant Point for 3 or 4 hours, going 100 yards or 200 yards. But in days like that, the mentality is, look, if we can get one trip in and get some food over here and get a few people back and forth, that's really all you want to do. That's all you need to do. Everyone can live, can survive okay, without all the boat traffic. You just have to kind of settle on, getting the necessities back and forth.
Have you ever seen a whale?
Oh, yeah.
You have?
Plenty, yes. I've seen them on the boat. I've seen them sitting on the beaches in Nantucket. I've seen them, yeah, a bunch actually.
On the boat, like as captain, or
Yeah.
just like
Yeah, you'd look. There's a lot of observation that goes. You're up in the bridge, and there are periods of time where you're just observing. That's what you do. Once you've left the harbor, and then all of a sudden you'll look over, and there'll be a whale off in the distance, or not too far away. I hadn't seen one in a while, but and running the fast ferry, once you see them, you're supposed to report them, and then everyone's more careful about navigating near where they are. But yeah, no, I've seen a fair amount. One of the most incredible things was all the beautiful sunrises and sunsets, the way the island changes from season to season when you're coming in and out on the boat, rounding Brand Point. I mean, you take it for granted, and believe me, after all those trips that I was on, I've seen so many, but now when I think back how incredible it was. Even the people waving to you at Brand Point as you go by. I mean, just thousands and thousands of times. And I really love to see the island, sort of the quietness of the winter, and then the building of the season, in the spring, and see more people come. Then the college kids come, the tourists come, and then by August you're like, we want you all to leave. But but it was really enjoyable, and that was one of the best parts of the work I did. Besides, helping people that I knew getting back and forth, and I considered it kind of a community service job more than a captain's job, because you're so tied into the community. What the Steamship Authority does, whether you love it or hate it. They bring all your food, your fuel, and so it's an important job to have, and I enjoy doing that.
As captain, do they like assign you a boat, or like how is it?
Well, it's basically your jobs are given to you by seniority, and so the longer you work there, the better the chances that you get a boat that you want to be on, or a run that you want to be on. I mean, I was on the fast ferry the last, I'd say 20 years I worked there, most of the year. And the reason I did it was because coming from Nantucket, living here, I was the only captain, only employee that lived here, that worked on the boats. You have to start your day in Hyannis. So I'd have to get to Hyannis to start work. So my commute was to jump on the fast ferry, which is only an hour, and then I'd start my day. If I worked on the slow boats, it was a 2-hour and 15-minute commute. Like if I worked on the Eagle, I'd leave on the 12 o'clock Eagle and start my day at 2:15, which I did for 12 years. But so there's a lot of commuting time in my life. And that was probably one of the more difficult things. That's the thing I missed the least about being retired.
What time did you wake up, like when you to start your day?
For many years, I was on the slow boat, and that 6:30 a.m. boat. Do you guys like going on that?
No.
In the morning? Well, I would get up generally around 5:30, and and then I'd race around, get dressed, and I'd drive into town from Sconset, where I live, which is just me and a few deer, at that time in the morning. I was thinking back to those trips coming in the car, and my favorite time was the winter doing that, because I could literally come into town into Nantucket if it was snowing in particular, and I could turn onto Main Street about 5:45, and you could almost feel like it was the 1800s. There were no cars on the road, and I was thinking, where else could you do that? I love that. That was one of the features of getting up in the morning.
Is there any improvements through these years? Like
Are you talking about the equipment on the boat in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
navigational equipment?
the equipment.
Yeah, there's quite a few improvements. I mean, first of all, the radars, which are one of the most important pieces of equipment you use, because you can see in the dark, you can see in the rain, in the fog with a radar. You can see targets, you can see buoys, you can see land masses. They're much better than they used to be. When I first started, the old radars were horrible. They're basically, I think from World War II when I started, they hadn't made much improvements, but they do now. And now they have electronic chart plotting devices that put you on the chart and you move along the chart. And so you know exactly where you are at all times. I mean, when I first started, the captains, had very little information to go on. Now we have several layers of information. So you're more, with a fast ferry in particular, you're more like an airline pilot in that you have to use your layers of information and trust them in restricted visibility like fog and night and stormy weather. And so, and there's been really major changes, which allows the boats to run more efficiently and not anchor outside and wait till they can see before they can come into the harbors. So there's been great improvements in that, and fortunately for all of us.
You said you worked 41 years at the steamship. Like, would you ever have imagined yourself staying at a job that wasn't the steamship for that long?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm still wondering what I'm going to do with my life. I never really thought I'd do the boat thing. It just kind of worked out, and like I said, 41 years old, time goes quickly. So, made a good life of it. And I don't know what else I would have done. I thought about working in banking or something like that, but I didn't want to be in an office, so I don't have any other. I was too busy with kids and working. I didn't have to worry about it, and building houses, and the next thing you know, you're retired.
What do you like to do now?
Well, I play a lot of tennis. I play paddle tennis. I play golf. I work part-time at a golf course, or at least I have the last 2 summers. I do a little work around the neighborhood. I'm overseeing a little project on a house right now. So, and I garden, I cook, I do all kinds of things like that. I've just seemed more settled, but I think I will travel more. We've always gone to Europe somewhere. Generally we go to France or, but our kids are, we have a daughter in Portland, Oregon. We go out there occasionally. So we go to the Southwest occasionally. It just depends. My wife still works a lot, so we have to work around her schedule. Unless I want to just take off on my own, which is entirely possible.
Thank you for letting us interview you today.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Good luck with your English class.
Thank you. So I found out that every day he has to start his morning by going on a boat and moving to the mainland, and then he starts his shift.
I learned that he worked for 41 years, and I think that's a lot because going back and forth on the boat, there's not gonna be a captain anymore.
From where?
From here.
Why not?
Because it's too expensive to live on the island, and they're not making enough money.